All right, I want to keep on going before.
There is a band of brothers in the IDF that is a special group, an elite group. I just read about it the other day, that their specific purpose is finding all of those that participated some way in, with or without Hamas telling them, and annihilating them.
So this group goes. This is a group that's going in to
all underground in Gaza and eliminating any of those that participated
in the atrocities.
somehow, some way.
Do you know Israel did this once? Do you remember? Munich. And the problem with Munich is they portrayed the Mossad agents of having a moral compass. They didn't have a moral compass. Okay.
What do you mean by non-Hamas people?
Citizens who engaged in horrific crimes against humanity.
Just anybody?
But not in Hamas.
Well, they were Gazans. They just were not part of the Hamas. I mean, Hamas is different. There's a Hamas political division. There's a Hamas police department. And very similar. I mean, the reason why Adolf Hitler came to power is because he restructured the police. One of the things that Hamas was able to do when they came to power is they brought law and order to the Gaza Strip. Okay. Oh, okay. Hold on. There's something really important. Wait. Okay. So, Mark, hold on. Slideshow from current slide. Okay. Okay. This is why maybe or maybe not de-Hamasification. So remember I talked about the Muslim Brotherhood? Here lies the huge problem. There's a guy named Mahmoud al-Banna. That name probably doesn't sound familiar. Mahmoud al-Banna. He was Egyptian, Syrian. In the 1920s, he became very involved in political Islam. And he would become the father of the Muslim Brotherhood. And he believed in a caliphate.
Yeah, what?
In a caliphate. At first, under his teachings and under the hadiths, the interpretations, Muhammad al-Banna said that Jews are indigenous to the land of Israel. They should live here and thrive. But eventually, he could not accept this. And the reason why he could not accept this, because it's stipulated, yes?
I thought you said he said that.
He said, Muhammad al-Banna first believed.
And then changed
Changed his mind. I'm going to tell you why he changed his mind. Because who came to Israel to rebuild it during the early settlement period? Europeans. So at once you had shmata-wearing Jews, and then you have Jews from European countries rebuilding the land. And the idea of a Polish Jew, a European, coming to this land, knowing that Jerusalem, as I mentioned once in the Quran, the most two important cities of Islam are in Saudi Arabia, Mecca and Medina. The notion of a Polish Jew, which is supposed to be in the lowest totem pole, coming back to rebuild a land is unacceptable. Is unacceptable. And in his teachings, in this political Islamism, became the Muslim Brotherhood ideology, saying that no land, that is, if Muslims occupy a land or take a land, it's always their land, and for whatever necessary means, they will do everything possible to reclaim it. And hence the problem is with Hamas, is because they are more than, there's a political wing, there's a military wing, and there's a community, everything you name it. But at the end of the day, they are a radical, religious, ideological group. Germans, I don't want to say, Germans really like themselves, okay? There's something about Germanisms that they wanted to endure. That's why they surrendered. Hitler killed himself knowing the war was lost. He probably knew the war was lost way before that. But Hamas, You can't change one's religious ideas. Try to convince me to make me another religion right now. You're not going to. Am I right? You're not going to. I can't, Adam Gordon, I can't tell you, become a Zeke. It's not going to happen. So the problem lies with how do we change a religious ideology that is over 100 years old. Next class, we're going to see if we can figure it out. But I wanted to set the seeds for you now before we welcome Shabbat, because, let me take any few more questions. We have 15 minutes. Kathy in the back.
Yes, the more you talk about this, the more I see how separate October 7th should be from the Holocaust. It deserves its own, if it's a museum or a memorial or whatever, those stories, those people, those families, just like the survivors. I don't see that they're, the more you talk, you kept saying how different it was. Yes, it is never again, but it is so different, and each one deserves their own knowledge and books and films and classes. I just don't see how you could talk about the same that happened, but to really do what's been done for the Holocaust, and I think Betty and Jack can agree with me, we've got to know so many stories of people, and I think the October 7th deserves the same.
Kathy, I agree with you, and as Ronnie once taught me, and I'm going to show you something real quick. Mark, do I have permission to use this?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God, this is like an OCD's worst nightmare.
It's at the top, it's at the top.
I'm trying to find the internet. Okay.
While you're doing that, let me supplant what Kathy says.
Yes, Edward.
Being a docent at the Holocaust Center, I'm finding more and more adults that do not know anything about the Holocaust. So it's an education to teach them about what happened so many years ago. But you would hope that if you had October 7th, it would be easier to teach them and then relate it maybe back to the Holocaust. But I think it would be very difficult to try and teach both of them at the same time, both events.
Okay. Here lies the shiloh of the question. I'm not going to say problem, the shiloh of the question. Because we all have to wrestle with how we teach this. Because Holocaust museums are dedicated on never again using education. And never again happened. And I just saw the index, the anti-Semitism index, even after October 13th, 200% increase of anti-Semitism, okay? Here lies the problem. Here's the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj al-Hassani, and there's the Fuhrer himself. Nidset, located in Jerusalem. Okay? And the reason why the Grand Mufti is meeting with Adolf Hitler is because he is indoctrinated by the Muslim Brotherhood. So in a way, Kathy, I would say 100% we have to talk about the origins of National Socialism and what happened. We talk about 1939, 1945, the killing machines, the gas chambers, the propaganda, you name it. And at the same time, we have to compare how a world was utterly silent, and on top of that, how the West utterly failed to protect a population that is so insignificant when we think about it. It's going to have to, museums or institutions, and Yad Vashem is doing this. They have that, it's a line with dots, okay? So when you talk about never again is again, they have to compare anti-Semitism that happened, to prove the point, and what we saw on American college campuses, the media.
One thing I'll say to that too, I'm teaching a Holocaust class right now, and it's interesting because when we look at the histories that are happening in Europe, so many times in Germany and Poland, all these things, they're calling for the Jews to go back to Palestine. And now what do you see? The sign saying Jews go back to Poland, go back to Germany. So there is a lot of really interesting, I think that my students are pulling and seeing these kind of similarities.
Let me just interject this. Our Holocaust Center is not a museum. anyone that thinks it is wrong. We are an education center based upon telling people about the stories of our survivors that ended up in Alabama with their stories. And when we have groups that come in, we got an hour to teach them. And if you think you can teach anything about the Holocaust and October 7th in an hour and try and do it justice, and you have teachers that have no idea how to prepare their students when they come, it's really a very challenging thing. But I just want people to understand that the Holocaust Center that we have here is not a museum. It is trying to teach from our perspective about the survivors.
I would say, Ed, I would say Yad Vashem. It's an education center. It's a think tank. It's a school. It has artifacts. AHUC has artifacts, museum-type things, right? Have you been to Israel post-October 7th? Ed, have you been to Israel post-October 7th?
Yeah.
You have?
No.
Okay. I would say this. When you go to the Gaza envelope, when you go to Kibbutz Bari, and when you go to Nova, I think there's a way where you're going to say we have to figure as we educate teachers, the trips have to, I know there's a great grant that's happening, that the trip should be to Auschwitz, and then the next trip should be to Nova. We don't have to separate them. There's a way that we can do a shiluv, a comment. We have to find the nuance in gray. Because, go ahead, Ronnie.
I was just gonna say that the few survivors that are left in Israel are encouraging the survivors of October 7th to speak and not for healing and for, the same reason we needed the survivors of the Holocaust to speak.
And I'm going to go, thank you, I'm going to go to Stefan real quick, but I'll say this. When the first wave of hostages were returning home, the state of Israel relied upon one group of people to help them reassimilate, I don't know what the right word is, to come back to society. Ed, do you know who that was? I'm going to go Socratic on you because you're a lawyer. What was that? Holocaust survivors. Holocaust survivors were instrumental in telling these, if you looked at every release of the hostage, everything was so particular. The lighting, everything they brought in was so particular to help come back to life spiritually. So when I learned that Holocaust survivors were the ones who were guiding Israel, there is a connection. And I think we as Jews, whether in the rabbinate or work for Holocaust institutions, centers, advocacy groups, we got to find that dotted line to figure this out. And I want you to think about it because the next class is in November, okay? One more, Stefan. What do we got?
Yeah, when you were speaking, and this may be something you're going to touch on in the next class, but when you were speaking about the need to de-Hamasify, you certainly created a very pessimistic picture. People in Gaza, or presumably maybe even the West Bank, choosing a different path. So I want to ask a question that sounds a little bit like, it's going to make me sound like a naive liberal, but I work with people with addiction who have often made a series of difficult and bad choices. And usually the point at which people change is some combination of not liking the consequences of their prior decisions and then seeing something they really want in the future. And they suddenly realize the thing they would most want isn't going to be available to them unless they give up the choices they've made in the past that have not been so helpful. And I'm wondering if there's a thing that we could imagine that anybody who's living in Gaza or the West Bank or whatever would want in the future that would be part of the inducement to move forward and beyond the Hamasified, Nazified framework.
So you're an addiction specialist, and I will say this. I believe that when someone's an addict, I think they're born that way. Their brains and their wire, something's telling them that they need to have more, okay? I think it's genetic, and if you talk to people in recovery, they talk about this, and when they hit rock bottom, they figure out a way to stay sober, and it's a very powerful experience. I don't know if I see a comparison, because right now I think Hamas still would lead in polls if there were going to be held elections. And this is not going to take a year. It's not going to take 2 years. You're going to have to find a new generation of people. I know there's these sheikhs from Hebron. I don't know. But it's going to have to take a different worldview. And the difference between the Nazis and the Germans is that because the majority of the Germans weren't Nazis, and the fact they had to go through all of these denazification, and tons of Germans died. In Bomber Harris, tons of Germans died. The bombing of Frankfurt, Dresden, the way they prosecuted the war. They experienced war, and guess what? They didn't want it anymore, and they suffered the consequences. So, yes, Doc.
Thank you.
You got it.
When we went to Auschwitz,
Yeah.
Birkenau, I asked the Polish person about anti-Semitism today. They refused to answer the question, so I don't know that they really changed.
You're going to find that with every experience. And when I went to Sachsenhausen, I had a guy named Toby. He was 18 years old. His mom came from another country. His dad was German. And I think to myself, here's a young man who can take any other job in the world and decides to be a tour guide at Sachsenhausen. So I don't think it's yes or no. I think it's all in nuance and the shades of gray. But there's something about Germany. Germany is one of the largest Jewish communities in the country. I mean, in the world. It's the second largest outside France. France is going to be declining. Oh, we got Shabbat in 3 minutes. Oh, we need some Shabbat. Yes.
Everyone waiting in the foyer.
Oh, okay. Shabbat shalom. Email me, harass me, you name it. I will always listen. Okay.
So I hope you stay.
Oh, go show it to Ed. Ed, look at this. Thanks, buddy. Thank you for saving me. Yeah. Anyway,
Which side are they on?
And at the time, actually,
Both sides, but apparently only on that side.
I mean, the deal, they'd be
They
on
also
that
have-
side.
Yeah, I mean, they've been there in the last 2 weeks. I don't know where they got moved to. Let me take a look.
But it's hard for 1 hour. Oh, yeah, I mean, I should have done an 8, but 1 hour, even the second makes one. It's gonna be hard to cover so much. Oh, I got a note about for your wife. I know the name. Judy. No, the pronunciation of the correct name. Of the name for the yard sign.
Oh, yeah. Don't you dare get it wrong. I'm just kidding. It's her father.
Oh, wait. Bree as in Charles D. Bree.
Yeah, but you don't say bride, but if you, yeah, good, thank God.
We got it.
You get in trouble? Why don't you blame everything on me like everyone else does? Joey, thank you.
She says, busy every night. You know, that doesn't mean
Cue sheet, Ron. Yeah, it was good interaction. No, I didn't know. But it is an interesting comparison, for sure, it's fascinating.
Reach home for good weather. Yes, you do. You're in Colorado. I know.
I read a lot about the biggest problem they had was the person who prostituted enough. They had limited time to get it done in the 2 or 3 years. Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Hello, good to see you.
See ya.